The first level of any video game is the most important and should be the one that has the most time spent on in your game. It's the level players will see the most and will be the most played level. This equates to the first stage more likely than not being what players will remember the most, so it has to stand out. The first level of any game will follow the 3 O's, a set of guidelines. That's objective, obstacle and outcome. Now these O's are always the same. The objective is to teach the player enough about the mechanics of the game for them to begin with. The obstacle is an introduction to level design or basic enemies that utilise the game's combat effectively. And the outcome will always be to award the player in a way of enticing them on to keep playing, because ultimately that's the goal of a level 1. See, Super Mario's World 1 followed these rules to a T. It displays the game's mechanics in an intelligent way by placing blocks above Mario's head with a question mark. You then press jump, hitting the block, and a power-up pops out. Then the obstacle arrives, a Goomba, not too difficult an enemy and travelling at a steady speed, giving the player a chance to take a risk. See, there's no attack button, so instead you jump over it. You hit the Goomba and now you've discovered your way of defeating the enemies in the game. Finally, the outcome arrives, with you reaching a flagpole and advancing through to the next level. Nintendo, you did it. But today we're looking at first-person shooters. These games need to follow these rules but also can't break first-person player immersion. These 5 games, however, present their level 1s perfectly. I'm DonCritic and these are 5 fantastic first levels in first-person shooters. Left 4 Dead 2. To start us off, we have Valve's iconic zombie shooter sequel. This game, as much as it's about getting rid of the undead, is also about teamwork, having realistic and dynamic chatter between the characters, and Valve also displaying your team's vitals and equipment along the bottom of the screen. The first level starts on the roof of a hotel. Your objective is to work together to reach the bottom. Sounds simple enough. But Valve put many obstacles in motion to ensure that the player keeps with their group. Take the first hallway. The rooms are placed on either side, populated with dozens of enemies. This keeps the group in one choke point and not spread out. The lower floors have entrances that unleash deadly flames to keep you subconsciously on a given path throughout the enormous hotel. There's a section in which you have to climb on a walkway outside, and also a heated firefight on the ground floor which is choked in flames. Finally ending on a small arena section in the lobby of the hotel for the player to use some of their throwables that they may have picked up as they enter the room. This first level was perfectly crafted to show the player enemy attack patterns, level variety, and that teamwork is the key to success, and coincidentally is one of the most replayable levels in the game. Condemned. Now let's shift to a much slower pace with this psychological thriller. In Condemned, you play as investigator Ethan Thomas, and you arrive at a crime scene within its first level. After the game introduces you to the investigative techniques to find clues on the murder scene, you are separated with your partner. Now you have to search this abandoned building for the killer. You have 1 magazine, a flashlight, and your wits, and you have to scale the game's obstacles alone. The second Condemned is usually regarded as the better. However, what makes the first level of Condemned 1 more effective is its way of displaying the game's mechanics to the player without breaking that important immersion with flimsy tutorials. See, in the second game, your first melee fight happens in a cage arena, and the enemies will spawn outside and then just pour in, and you press the bumpers to beat them up. It's fairly generic and doesn't challenge the player at all. Whereas in the first game, you are locked in a dark, boarded up apartment block, and the enemies use their knowledge of the level and the darkness to get the jump on you. This means that the player naturally feels outnumbered and against impossible odds, which only makes you even more accomplished when you use your wits, you adapt to the environment, and you complete the level alone. It ends perfectly on a cliffhanger, enticing you to continue playing the game further. Condemned captures that intensity of psychological action in just its first 30 minutes. Medal of Honor Frontline. This game needs no introduction. It begins with you stuck in the middle of a squad of anxious and panicked soldiers. There's no music, and all you have control of is the camera. This is an epic way to introduce your World War II shooter. You're on this watercraft for a solid minute. Your squad captain tells you to follow him when you land on the beach. That right there is your tutorial. Now watch what Medal of Honor does next.
That artillery strike scattered what's left of our squad all over the beach. 4 of our boys over there. Help them move up the beach to the seawall. Damn it! I'll give you some covering fire. Now move out!
Your objective marker or tutorial level guide is pinned down, and now you, the player, is flung into the fire and have to push up the beach and survive with what knowledge you have alone. All around you there's attack planes in the sky showering the beach with lead, machine gun nests raining down on you, and you have to crawl through it all, talking to fellow soldiers and offering suppressive fire until you can blow up the barbed wire fence and proceed past the beachhead. What this level never falls into the trap of is holding the player's hand. You have complete control from the moment that you get off the boat to the moment that the level is over, and you are pressured by your orders being shouted at you around and the enemy's machine gun fire to learn the controls and fast in a powerful and engaging way. If you compare it to other similar levels like the first level of Call of Duty World War II, which used a similar setup, you can see that the anticipation on the boat and the landing sequence is all a cutscene. When you finally get control, you have little time to adapt. An objective marker takes up the whole centre of the screen, and you'll instantly hit another cutscene 5 steps into the level. For the rest of the mission, you'll run in a linear, straight line towards your task marker. But where Frontline excelled was keeping that incredibly important immersion in check, and never allowing it to falter by throwing stars or arrows on the screen, and never pulling away any freedom from the player. Doom. A level it would be hard not to mention is E1-M1, a fantastic level of its day, showcasing a broad range of architecture which wasn't possible with Doom's predecessor Wolfenstein 3D. It had multiple varying textures and colour schemes for each room, and an enticing range of secret passages which merely gave you a little taste of later levels to come. This level also introduces you to 2 enemies. One fires a hit scan weapon, so it instantly does damage, and they are easily defeated. Then you'll come across an imp. These fire projectiles which can be dodged by strafing. He's placed high on a ledge, giving the player needed space to learn his attack pattern. The player is advised through the level design itself to keep your distance whenever you encounter these enemies. Also, the area beneath him has a small bridge surrounded by acid, but the bridge is a zigzag shape, so it forces the player to use strafing whilst shooting at the imp. The final imp is placed next to a green barrel. It's a pretty basic formula today, but Doom was one of the first shooters to shoot that barrel and the enemy explodes, saving yourself ammunition in the process. It's not the most complicated level, but honestly, that's what makes it such a good first level. The secrets are easily obtainable, but also feel the most rewarding. After you've played Doom's Episode 1 Mission 1, it won't just be the theme stuck in your head. Half-Life 2. This game doesn't just have a fantastic first level, but it's probably one of the best intros to a game I've ever played. Playing as Gordon Freeman, you wake up on a train headed to City 17. The game's intro displays this world beautifully for the player as you head through the station, passing depressed civilians caught in this uprising of the empire known as the Combine. The first hostile Combine does something brilliant. Instead of just throwing enemies at you, Valve instead challenges the player in a unique way. The Combine soldier says, any other game would now give you a pop-up box telling you how to pick up and drop physics items. But in Half-Life 2, most players will now curiously learn how to throw items. This nature of tutorializing Half-Life's basic mechanics and physics is present all throughout this first level. Like, take this setup of barrels before you fall into a pit of barnacles. Or your first trip underwater as you knock down these planks of wood to then see how physics objects are manipulated underwater as they rise to the surface for you to then platform over them. And this organic tutorializing is done whilst escaping City 17 in a frantic chase with the Combine and a helicopter above, making it one of the best levels in the game. All these 5 levels get it right. They never pull the player away from the action, they are meaningful, they force the player to make their own decisions, and they never have you sit back and react to moving pictures on a screen and press the odd few buttons that it tells you to press. So these are my 5 fantastic first levels in video games. I know there'll be plenty more out there, so let me know any I missed in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to RookerVision for more awesome gaming content. See you in the next one, and take care.